Got a football game Sunday, not sure you're aware. Tackle style, 60 minutes, professionals. And you got to play with whoever's healthy enough to play, including the most important position on the field, quarterback. And the Packers are likely, but they haven't yet. So, going to go with Malik Willis, a young third-year pro.
Well, he's on the roster.
Herman. He's on the roster. Andy Herman
he's on the roster.
Now. Andy Herman joins us now, Pack-A-Day Podcast. Good morning, Andy. How are you today, my friend?
I am fantastic. After, hearing that song on the intro, just when you're feeling a little bit down about the Packers, you hear that song, everything feels right in the world. But great to be talking to you guys again.
All right, a lot to get to. Let's start with the overall vibe check from you. Covers the team and reads the tea leaves and looks at the smoke signals of the team on a daily basis. What was your vibe coming out of Lafleur's presser yesterday about how long will Love be out?
Yeah, you kind of have to figure that there's maybe a little bit of gamesmanship here. I think the odds of him probably playing this week are, I would say, incredibly low, maybe not impossible, which is why he's maybe leaving that door open a crack. But I think what you take away from that, first of all, is that there's no chance whatsoever he's going on IR, which is a very good sign. Because, even when you hear like 4 to 6 weeks and they're hopeful that it's going to be 3 to 4. You're assuming that they're probably not going to do that, but you don't know if maybe, especially with yesterday, how we talked about how there was a erroneous report about they being interested in Ryan Tannehill. You never quite know. So he completely ruled out IR. He did not rule out completely playing this week. And I think that just lends yourself to believe, all right, maybe this is going to be absolutely on the shorter end of that, 3 to 6 weeks. So that's what I kind of took out of it. Again, I think the odds of him playing this week are probably insanely slim, and it's probably gamesmanship, but overall, I kind of took it away as a good thing, and hopefully that he is still back sooner rather than later.
Out would be out, and he's not out.
Correct.
So that to me is very encouraging right there on the surface. Now to Malik Willis. So obviously they thought a lot of him to go get him at the last minute. I would love to know, where do they get that belief in a guy? They don't have sources inside the Titans org still, do they, that can say, here's what he's doing? Did they see something in August, Andy, with Malik Willis that would lead them to go, I think this kid is an uncovered gem? What's going on?
I think there's a few things that happened here. One, I'm sure they probably liked him coming out of the draft in some capacity, meaning, and there's a lot of reasons to like him. He's a super athlete. He's got a live arm. You see some of the throws that he makes at Liberty. You see some of the throws that he even has made in a couple of his starts and in preseason, and you can see exactly why there's some belief in a player like Malik Willis. I think the second thing that happened is, albeit as a number 3 quarterback in preseason, going up against a lot of number 2s and 3s, he improved quite a bit this last preseason, just in things that are tangible, meaning he got rid of the ball a lot faster. That was something that he really struggled with when he was a starter with Tennessee, when he got those opportunities. His accuracy was better. He was taking better care of the football. So you could see things that were an absolute improvement this preseason, again, with the caveat that it was against a lot of third strings, sort of players. And then I think the other thing is, they just didn't have any reasonable backup quarterback on their roster. So it's not hard to argue that even Malik Willis, if he's the, struggled backup quarterback for Tennessee, or the guy that struggled as a starter, it's not hard to argue he's at least still better than what Michael Pratt and Sean Clifford were. So if you're upgrading it in even a small capacity, and you're getting a guy that has a lot bigger upside and showed at least some more promise this last preseason, I think you can kind of get the jump to the conclusion of, all right, let's give this a shot. At least he has unbelievable speed and athleticism, stronger arm than any of those guys. Let's see if we can work with it here. I'm sure they didn't hope that all of a sudden 2 weeks later they're going to have to use him when he still probably doesn't have a full grasp of the playbook, but it is what it is. And at least they've got an exciting young player that they can throw in there and see what he can do.
Andy, for me, what I was most disappointed in, obviously Love injury, biggest conversation. However, I thought this Packers team was very undisciplined.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the most disappointing thing. Week 1, your standard of being disciplined should be set. And I didn't feel like it was. And we saw it, whether it was the 12-on-12 touchdown taken away, whether it was the 4th and 1 offsides that, doesn't allow the tush push, right? Like all of that happens. And so for me, and we've seen it a lot with this Packers team, this undisciplined happen. What do you think Matt Lafleur says to this team? And do you think the product that we're going to see this Sunday is going to be one of a disciplined team?
Yeah, I think so. One of the things that I really enjoy about this team in particular, and we saw it last year, is, when they have games like this, they tend to bounce back and want it more and watch more film and get a little bit more discipline, like you mentioned. I was absolutely disappointed in that as well. That night after the game, went back and rewatched, and I counted all the mistakes. And I didn't even count the Keyshawn Nixon return. I didn't even count the Jaire Alexander return.
Oh my God.
I,
By the way, you didn't count those? How long is that list, by the way?
I was already at 39, and I'm like, this is just almost getting. I was at 39, and this is missed tackles, penalties, drops, bad throws. Zach Bond coming off the edge, nobody picking him up, just like thing after thing after thing, and it's just like I've never quite seen a team where you had everything that was out there for you. And it's an interesting sort of dynamic when you talk about Matt Lafleur in this game, because from a scheme standpoint and what they wanted to accomplish and game planning up open looks and getting guys like on defense, getting guys like Keyshawn Nixon an opportunity for a pick six at the end of the game and all the interceptions that they had, I felt like the game plan in and of itself was they had these guys ready and put in positions to succeed. But to your point, they did not have them ready from a discipline standpoint, from a focus standpoint, and that's on the coaching as well. So you kind of give a very passing grade for the game plan. I think you give a very negative grade for the effectiveness of making sure that they were ready to play in this game. And it was just at some point too, the players have to play. They didn't. I do believe, to your question, Brian, that they will bounce back and play a much more disciplined game against the Colts this week.
I saw your list, and it surpassed the initial window on Twitter.
Yes.
And I was like, oh boy, I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'll get back to it, but I'm glad Andy is chronicling all the mistakes. Will you do this every week? Because it would be an actual service for us as Packer fans. Just the grocery list of mistakes.
My hope is I don't have to, right? I don't think I've never felt
even if it's a six mistake list.
I'll see what I can do. I'll think about it. But
Butchie, don't you think it's good that somebody keeps a list of the? I used to keep a list of the good break, bad breaks in a football game. Like, we could have had this, and this worked in our favor, because luck plays a huge factor in any NFL game.
Well, no, but Andy, it was great. Like, it was. I mean, that's one of those
it's a long list.
Especially but I agree, because the game happened Friday night, so I used it a lot as I was prepping Sunday.
I agree, though, Andy, that LaFleur's scheme is great, and there's guys open, and they were running wild, and they got speed and youth, and they could have scored a lot more points. They just didn't, which made it frustrating, but I'm not super worried about it. But now with Love out, obviously the big question is, can Malik play at all? Can they fashion a game plan for him? So there's that. Let's talk defense for a second. Two things trouble me. One, the run fit by Quay on the easy walk-in by Barkley. I know he's shifty. He's not that shifty. And I think there could be a Jaire problem brewing where he just gambles too much. What'd you think of the defensive effort?
Yeah, so first of all, in the Quay one, I think Kenny might be in the wrong gap there lined up. There's a little bit of a misalignment there. I still Quay's got to do better in that situation. And you obviously don't want to see somebody, making a dive and whiffing at air and not even getting a hand on the ball carrier whatsoever. So I think multitude of things went wrong on that particular play. And then the Jaire situation, it's so interesting because this is something that I've kind of been on, going back to the last couple of years, even the second team All-Pro year, I didn't think was maybe quite as good as he got credit for. He hasn't been as good of a tackler. I was encouraged that on that one of the early plays in the game, he came up and made an aggressive tackle, which was something we haven't really seen out of him since the shoulder injury. He obviously had a big interception in this game. There's things that he did well. I thought he had a really, really good training camp. It seemed like his head was in the right spot. But man, the play against AJ Brown, I can understand maybe a couple of the other missed tackles with the field conditions, and you hope that it's just a one-off. But the coverage on AJ Brown on that play just was extremely lazy. You know that you have him one-on-one. I get it's an out and up, and AJ Brown's a really good receiver, but you have to be able to come a little bit closer to that in coverage and make that at least contested. And he just did not at all. And you're counting on him to be a guy. And I'm not saying you can lock up AJ Brown for the entirety of the game or anything like that, but those are the exact plays that you at least have to limit. If that's a 15-yard gain, so be it. That's fine. It's not a big deal, but it can't turn into a 60, 70-yard touchdown, whatever it was. And you're counting on that guy I'm not saying be shut down, but he has to be able to be your number one corner. And that's not a play, and that's not a game that's indicative of a number one corner in this league. And you take some of the good, and I understand there's going to be a little bit of bad, but it has to be a little bit cleaner than that. I'm hoping he's going to bounce back. Like I said, I did think he had a fantastic training camp, but this is a huge season for Jaire. You had the wonky year last year where it just wasn't very good, and then you had the suspension and everything like that. I thought he's handled it well. I thought the Packers handled it well, but now you just have to be better. And if he can't be, that's going to be a huge detriment to this Jeff Hafley defense and the scheme that he wants to run.
Can this win team? Sorry,
hold on. I was just going to add on the cornerback front, the Eagles first rounder, Quinion Mitchell from Toledo. He looked nice.
Yeah, he looked really good.
Like, okay, this guy can play. Yes, Butchie.
Can they win the next two games? That's the bottom line. It comes down to this team can't start 0-3. Can they go 1-1? Can they go 2-0? Can they, or do they lose 0-2? How do you think it plays out?
Yeah, I think let's just say Love is out the next 2 to 3 weeks. I think they will pick up one of those wins either. And even if he plays one of them, I think if you can pick up at least one win in the next 3 weeks, I think you're 1-4 at that point. It's not great. But I think, 1-3. And then you can kind of move on from there and hopefully sort of restart your season with Love, maybe a little bit healthier going into that Rams game. Puka Nacua will now be out for that game. So I think if you can be even at least 1-3 going into that Rams game, reset the season, sort of start over, pick up some wins, and then get back on track. I think they can. I think they will win one of these next 3 games, regardless of if Jordan doesn't play or not. And I think there's 2 that are winnable in there. And certainly if Jordan comes back sooner, I could see them picking up a win against either the Colts or the Titans and then beating Minnesota at home with Jordan. So, I mean, if there's any chance that they can be 2-2 after that Vikings game, I think they will be beyond thrilled. And I think that opportunity, that window is out there for them.
What did Clifford do to get on the wrong side of this staff? I can't understand how he went from being, I think we got somebody, to get out. Oh, wait a minute. Come back, but sit in the corner and learn. What happened?
I think there's 2 things. I think, first of all, the amount of turnovers he had in camp and preseason was just astronomical.
Too much.
And the one thing that you're looking for, especially in a player like Sean Clifford, who doesn't bring you a super high upside, it's not like he's got a crazy arm or an unbelievable athletic ability. It's just you're looking for somebody who can come in, manage the game, take care of the ball, and run the offense. Like, that's the sort of backup you're looking for in Sean Clifford. And when you just turn over the ball that much all throughout, I mean, he had a 3 interception day to Zane Anderson in minicamp. Like, those things just can't happen when you're trying to win a number 2 job. And then I think the other thing is, in this league, you are sort of viewed as somebody, especially when you're a draft pick, as somebody that has upside and potential until you prove that you don't. As a rookie, I thought he actually did a pretty good job of coming in, kind of managing the games, not turning over the ball. And it looks like, okay, maybe this is somebody that we can develop a little bit more. And then you come back his second year, he looks ridiculously worse, is throwing all those picks. And now all of a sudden you're like, all right, that's not going to be the answer. He doesn't have the upside to ever be a starter, and we're not even sure he can be a backup right now. And that's why you go and get someone like Malik Willis.
When you look at Jaden Reed, is he your number 1 wide receiver? It's 1 game. That's what people are saying. Give him the ball more. I heard Nag say it on Drew and KB yesterday. Hey, this game has to be Jaden Reed. He has to get the ball. There's still a lot of really good wide receivers. I mean, there's still a lot of good options out there. Or is it that clear that Jaden Reed's your guy?
Listen, he's going to be somebody that you game plan for every single game. That's why when people ask me all off season, who's going to be the guy that gets the most catches and the most yards, to me, it was always Jaden, because that's the guy that they actually scheme stuff up for. He's going to have the most defined role as the slot wide receiver. Plus, he can do a bunch of other things. They're going to get him touches in the run game. But like, that's, to me, the guy that they kind of focus on the most. But I absolutely believe that we're going to go all throughout this season where it is going to be days where Christian is going off for 6 and 130. There's going to be Dobbs days. There's going to be Dontavian Wicks days. I know he just had a poor one, but we're going to see all of these guys have their day and look like a number 1 wide receiver. But by the end of the year, if you, again, I'm saying it again, you had to ask me who has the most receptions and yards in the season. I'm absolutely going Jaden.
0-1 Colts, 3.5-point favorites Sunday, noon at Lambeau Field against the 0-1 Packers. Entire NFC North, Andy, is 1-0. The Niners, 1-0. It's getting rough early. Let's go get a win on Sunday. Need one badly, right?
Absolutely. Can't wait.
All right. Very good. Pack-A-Day podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcasts.